Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third episode of the Cavan GaaPlayer Pathway, brought to you by Cavan GAA. I'm Damien Donoghue, and tonight we're going to be talking to employers about the opportunities available locally, and we have a super panel put in place. So let's jump straight in and introduce our guests. First, I'm delighted to introduce Pamela McCabe, who's the marketing manager at Kingspan. She's a former Cavan senior ladies football captain, having played for 20 years phenomenally for the Girls in Blue. She was a Drummer St Finbar's player, but now she's making huge contributions to the Drumgoon club. Pamela, thanks a million for joining us. Pamela, before we get into business, tell us a bit about your career as a footballer. It started, you were telling me the other day, at a very, very young age, being brought up to a county senior trial.
Yes, I did indeed. I suppose it was 94. I went at the age on the back of a tractor to trials in Killincare. I know we had a chat about it, but I'll never forget it. And my father often reminds me of the fine luxuries we had, but nothing stood in the way of getting to the football or any football, no matter what it was. I was sure to get there. And a local girl from St Finbar's club, Brady, took me the rest of the way, and still is very, very much involved in my football and that's going on nowadays.
Yeah, phenomenal to think. I don't think we'll see a generation like that again, that at 12, 13, 14 years of age are going into county senior trials. It was a different world.
Oh, absolutely. And I was definitely one of the youngest, but not by much. The girls were only a couple of years ahead of me, like Elaine Costa and that. But then even we've seen the likes of Doonan and, different girls trainer and like that coming in. They all came in at quite a young age as well to the senior team, but it started to change shortly after that. But it was a very good learning. I learned a lot of life skills quite early on.
Yeah, definitely did. I suppose you're with Kingspan. When did you join with Kingspan?
I joined Kingspan in 2010, so I'm there, this is 11 years now at this stage. So
Kingspan have been a huge supporter of Cavan GAA over the years. It's a great relationship.
Yeah, they're obviously the longest serving supporter of any county team in Ireland's history of GAA, so it's actually a huge thing for them. And I know that Brendan himself is very passionate about it. Yes, we do. There's a couple of us Cavan people within the company obviously hold on very tight to this as well, and we talk it out aloud a lot. But yeah, it's important for them. As you know, Kingspan are grassroots in Cavan. It's where they started off. It does mean a lot to them in the local community that they're giving something back, and they can see, particularly this year, that really has come of value to them.
Next up, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Kieran Brady, who is a senior partner at Kbg Accountants with offices in Cavan and in Longford. Kieran is a former Cavan minor football captain, beating in the Ulster final way back in 1988. And I'm going to reveal your age, Kieran. A senior player for Cavan for 10 years and obviously winning an Ulster title in 1997. But more importantly, Kieran, you have two sons that are hot on your heels, Fionnan and Cormac, who are, I think they're going to be better than you. And that's coming when I'm on a Zoom call. You can't hit me for saying that.
Well, that's what Fionnan and Cormac say anyway, David. They're going to be better than me, and especially during lockdown last year when a lot of the older matches were being showed, and there was a lot of smart comments. A friend of mine said, he says, you'd be better off with a lot of those games not being highlighted back in the 80s and 90s and so forth. But yeah, the two boys are coming through. Fionnan's on the under 20 panel this year, and Cormac was on the county under 17 panel last year. So look, they're starting out on their road, Damien, yes.
Yeah, tell us a bit about Kbg Accountants. Obviously based there, or one of the offices on Coleman Road or Rilla Road in Cavan.
Yeah, I suppose Kbg, we have the offices, you say, in Cavan, and we have an office in Longford. We have three senior partners, Patrick Keaveney, myself and Mark Riley. We have four junior partners, and we have approximately 40 staff, Damien, as well, between the two offices. So look, it's busy, it's going well. It's been, look, like any other business in the last 12 months, it's been tough going and will be tough going for the next for the foreseeable future. But look, it's business. You have to keep going. You have to make the best of it. And we have fantastic staff, Damien. We have all age profile. We have fantastic staff here that has put their shoulder to the wheel, and look, long may it continue.
I suppose teamwork being a big part of it when there's 40 of you all pulling in the same direction. But we can dig into that a wee bit later on, Kieran. Our third panel member tonight is Enda King. He's a physiotherapist, but is the head of performance at Santry Sports Clinic. He's a former Cavan senior. He played for the Boys in Blue between 2001 and 2007, and he has worked as team physio for the Dublin senior hurlers, as well as some of Ireland's top athletes. And thanks a million for joining us. I suppose talking about very quickly some of the top athletes that you've worked with, we were discussing off air about how Bernard Brogan gave you a mention. Paul O'Connell was very grateful for the work that you've done with him. I suppose, was that a big help to you that working with those sorts of players gave you recognition for the good job you're doing?
Yeah, I think I paid them all very well to make any comment, but I think it's like anything else. You set out in your career, whether that's football or work, to try and do a good job. And if you're doing a good job, people will recommend you, and other opportunities come along. And especially with the likes of guys like that. But Paul would be a good example. When you have someone who's that, I suppose, at the peak of what they do, you learn an awful lot about how they apply themselves and how they go about their business, and you can see very, very easily why they're so successful. And so it's as much an honour and a privilege to be making any small minor contribution to anything they're doing. But you get great insight as to how elite performers apply themselves and what makes them elite, both in their mindset and their application. Never mind their skill set as well. So it doesn't really feel like work at all. It's a very enjoyable hobby to be involved with in many ways.
Suppose, yeah. Carl, what did I say? You do something you love for a job and you never work a day in your life, and maybe you're on that path. But looking at Santry Sports Clinic, I suppose it's become synonymous. Anybody who gets a sport injury, nearly automatically they're looking towards Santry at some point. There's other Cavan people working up there as well in Santry. It was an innovative sort of hub for physiotherapy, for rehabilitation, for treatment and sports injuries in Ireland.
Yeah, I suppose we were very lucky that the medical director and founder, a guy called Ray Moran, probably one of the most well-renowned orthopaedic surgeons in Ireland and in Europe, very prolific knee practice, and he'd been working in various public hospitals and felt that there was a complete gap in the market in terms of looking after elite and recreational athletes in Ireland, that getting them, they don't belong in A&E and they don't belong in the public health service. They deserve to have a higher standard of care, and so it made huge strides and huge efforts to open, and they opened probably around the crash of 08-09. So I mean, it was quite a difficult time business wise, I'm sure. But not only that, they could see the value in having a centre that catered for everything. So radiology, orthopaedics, and obviously I benefit from their investment in sports medicine and rehabilitation. And in recent years, they've kitted the place out with a 3D biomechanics lab, which all the ACL athletes would go through afterwards. So rather than just sort of saying, we look after the surgery and then on your way, really recognising that there's a holistic approach to looking after athletes, both in terms of the facilities that you offer, but the expertise that you have within that. And I think the business has reaped the rewards of that kind of approach.
Yeah, it's definitely something that having been up there a few years ago and the different approach that they take to how they treat injury is something you can see it filtering down across the country. But we'll keep on rolling, because our fourth and final panel member is Patrick Shields, depending on what age group you come from. He is the general foods ingredients. He's over general foods ingredients in Lakeland Dairies in Ballyborough. Pat, like Kieran, played for Cavan in the Ulster Championship success of '97. In the middle of an 11-year career, and I'm going to hang you out, Pat, as well. You were on that minor team in 1988, so your age has been revealed, Pat.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that, Damien. Yeah. We soldiered together back in '88 as well as '97. Yeah.
I'm saying 88, I'm saying this to you when I was talking during the week. 88, a lot of people talk about the under-21 success and winning the Ulster title, obviously, but very few remember that the minors came close making an Ulster final.
Yeah, well, we made the Ulster final. I'd say we didn't come close on the day, and Kieran will remember well. Peter Cavan had a lot to say about that, and I think Adrian Cush on the day. But yeah, we had a good run at it. We had beaten Down in the semi-final, who are All-Ireland champions at the time. Remember in Breffni Park, it was against the odds. Yeah, so yeah, it was a good run.
It was good. Tell us a bit about Lakeland Dairies. Everybody in Cavan knows Lakeland Dairies, but they don't necessarily. If you ask them what do they produce, what's the range of products, how many do they employ, a lot of people don't really know that sort of ins and outs of the company.
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, the company has grown a lot over the last maybe 10 or 15 years, Damien. Like, I suppose we have 1,200 employees at this stage. There are 8 production sites and two, I suppose, admin sites. One at Killigary there at the roundabout, as you'd be familiar with, and there's one outside of London in Bromley. And 8 production sites, 4 north and 4 south. So we're fairly well Brexited, as we like to say. We have about 3,500 shareholder milk suppliers, and I suppose it's a bit unusual. It's co-op, so the suppliers own the business. And the business model is about how much can you pay for the raw materials rather than how little. So it's a bit of a different dynamic. In terms of the products we make, mainly exported products, we probably divide the business into maybe 3 main dairy divisions. One is the ingredient side of the business, which is milk powders and I suppose bulk butter for industry. And that's the side that I head up. We would ship those around the world. Pretty much 90% plus of what we make is export. Then we have a food service division, which is kind of for your outside of home eating, whether it's your catering, your hotels, restaurants, or whatever. And again, predominantly exported, and that's your for back of house products for chefs and kitchens and stuff like that. And also you'll see your portions, your long life portions, your milk sticks and things like that. If we ever get back on an airplane, we'll see those. And then the third, I suppose, and final of the dairy divisions is the consumer foods, which is I suppose the one that we'll see most of locally, which is the ice cream, the liquid milk in the shops, the butters, that sort of stuff that you'll see locally in shops, and mainly through own labels. That's our business.
It's a phenomenal success story, and being a Cavan man, I was telling you how back in 2007, January 2007, I was in Beijing on New Year's morning, and being in a breakfast bar on the 14th floor in some hotel where nobody spoke English, and I couldn't read the menu and I couldn't see anything at all that looked like home. I went up and got myself a slice of toast, and the butter beside it was Lakeland Dairies, which filled me with pride, I have to say, that day.
Yeah, we have a significant presence in the Chinese and in that Far Eastern market. So yeah, it's always nice to see, and I suppose it's always very obvious when people travel, they stay in hotels, and whether it's the milk or the butter, it tends to be very obvious and very easily seen. So we're quite proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just going back to Pamela, obviously as marketing manager, I have a story of Kingspan as well. I actually took a picture when I landed in Christchurch in New Zealand one time, and come out from the airport, there's a big Kingspan warehouse or offices or something there. I took a picture there. So a global company. But what does your role entail as marketing manager for Kingspan?
Well, I suppose as marketing manager, my main role is to be promotion of the brand and to drive our product as Kingspan Installations. I look after within very much domestic Irish market, because that's our focus. As you say, we're all over the world, so every country would have their own marketing team. So daily, my role is to work closely with the external sales team. It's a very competitive area we live in Cavan. All of our main competitors are in touching distance between Navan, the other side of Cavan, etc. So it's always been ahead of the game, working closely with technical. It's a very technical. The market's got so sustainable, so focused on the net zero for the future. It's a real technical sale, but then to bring that back to layman terms, to sell it to the homeowner, the house builder, that they understand exactly what they're getting. It's both from installation at first to educate the market, but then from Kingspan. So you work with, so it's never ending changes every day. I could be on the factory floor pulling pallets out to, in a high fly meeting in offices at the airport. It changes hourly almost, just moves that fast.
I suppose it's an enjoyable role when there's so much variety to it and such a large company that there's great opportunities for progression.
Absolutely. It's very exciting. There's, more than Kieran has alluded to as well, we've had a lot of peaks and troughs. We've seen a lot of excellent times and a lot of really tough times. So it's always changing your discipline to be able to react to the market. And yes, the opportunities, the travel, the people with the vast years of experience that are in Kingspan are just, they're a wonder of their own to listen to the stories and where it's all came from. And came from manufacturing steel gates at the back of a yard or a pub in Kingscourt to where it is today is just phenomenal.
It's absolutely huge. Kieran, again, the huge growth in your business from when it was started. I think you told me in 1993. But of the 40 employees that you have, are there many of them from a GA background or involved in GA?
I suppose there's a lot of them involved, Damien, in some respect. Especially back in the days when I was still playing, I thought they were all involved, Damien, because they were all able to tell me where I went wrong on the Monday morning when I come back in after a game. But look, there's a lot of them is involved. A lot of them has an interest, and I suppose from where we're based in Cavan and Longford, there's predominantly a lot of the staff are from Cavan and surrounding counties, which is, yourself, the huge interest in football. And we would have a number of players, both at the moment. Jerry Smith, that plays with the Cavan senior team, is an employee at Kbg. We would have Martin Dunn, who played with the Cavan county team. We have Jack Traynor, who's on the county under 20 squad. We have Ronan Bannon. We have an abundance of footballers at all levels, Damien. I suppose just going back on Kbg, Patrick Keaveney would have founded Keaveney & Co. back in 1989, and I joined in 1993, and Mark Riley would have joined us probably later around, I'd say around 2000, 2001, and it would have grown from that. So we started off with basically in 1993, there was only Patrick and a secretary and myself, and it's grown over the years to the level that we're at now, Damien. So it's expanded rapidly, and thankfully, we still have a lot of new clients, new business coming on board, and we cover a wide aspect. We cover, people say accountancy is just preparing a set of accounts and filing a tax return, but there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot more budgeting, there's a lot more management accounts, there's a lot more dealing with financial institutions, and there's all aspects to it. And we're fortunate that we have a lot of expertise, Damien, on board. We have a full-time tax manager, we have a full-time audit manager. So it gives us the experience and the confidence that we can deal with each situation that arises.
Very good. In the progression of the company or the evolution, has your profile as a former county footballer, has that helped in business?
Oh, absolutely, Damien. Yeah, and look, people would often talk about footballers and benefits to them in their employment. And I know initially back in 1993, it was definitely a help in my getting a job, because Patrick Keaveney would have had then and still have a huge interest in football. So it was definitely it definitely gave an opportunity for employment. And it would have gave a great opportunity in sourcing new business, Damien, and given an opportunity. It's a conversation opener when you play football. After that, it's up to the individual then to develop it and bring it to the maximum and get the maximum from it. But it definitely gives an opportunity when you have a profile through football, and even having a knowledge of football, again in the area, because a lot of times conversation starts with the weather, the roads, or football, and maybe not in that order, Damien. And you have to be able to relate to people, you have to be able to talk to people, and you have to have an understanding of it. So to answer your question, definitely, yeah, it does open up a lot of doors, and it gives you an opportunity then to expand that, and it's up to you then at the individual then at that stage to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, very good, very good. And just looking at, obviously you've progressed and become excellent at your job, but why did you want to become a physiotherapist?
It wasn't for the money anyway, that's for sure. I suppose I was lucky. We had very good role models in Cavan. Ronan Carlin and Ian O'Reilly would have been, the main physios in the county at the time, and I always admired their work and their professionalism as well as the sporting background. And various niggles going on, like everything else, you get an exposure to it and you get an interest in it. And I always enjoyed analytics and maths and stuff like that. And physio, in many ways, it's very analytical. So the injury is one aspect of it, but trying to work out why that athletes become injured and how you need to program them and develop them back is the more interesting aspect of things. So it was something, I suppose, I always had a strong interest in sport, a strong interest in science, and it seemed to nicely combine them both.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, was it because you had a lot of injuries yourself growing up, but you didn't really have, because you had an awful lot of success at underage with Cavan Gaels.
Yeah, we're very lucky. And it's only when you're finished and you look back, you see how lucky you are in that, you get a group of players come into any club at the same time. You can be a great player or have great players, but if they're coming in individuals, it's difficult to create momentum. But we're very lucky with a great group that came together. And great structure and support. Like obviously we incredible coaching, JJ Riley, all the Rileys, Paddy and Eugene and JJ, John Fee and Vinny and Farrell. So I mean, we were very lucky to come into what was a very, very well organised and well-oiled machine, well coached, and then have a lot of good players coming together at the same time. So it's optimal for and a group that was hungry. But it's a chicken and egg. You win with, you get hungrier for winning more, and it's something that feeds into every aspect of it. That if you're competitive, you tend to be competitive professionally and competitive sport-wise. So we're very, very fortunate and look back with great memories.
I was going to say that actually, the success that you've had at underage, did that give you, because a lot of that group of players have achieved exceptional things in their work life as well, did that give you the confidence, or was the football success at underage as a result of the natural competitiveness? Do you think it was one or the other?
I think you're that little bit way inclined. So I mean, you get a competitive group that come together and it feeds into it. But also, they say you are who you surround yourself with, or you're a mix of the two. So if you have people who are academically striving ahead, you don't want to be the one that's lagging behind, or if you have people that are pushing themselves at work or at football. And so I think it's a little bit of the group themselves and the environment that it's almost self-fulfilling, that and it can go the wrong way, it can go the opposite way too, if that even a group where maybe that drive isn't there. So I think it's a combination of both. I think the football gives you phenomenal discipline. Success doesn't happen by accident, either in professional or sporting life, and so it creates a discipline of how you need to get your stuff done and how you push on, and creates a competitiveness and teamwork as well. So I think both things, the skill sets feed very much into each other.
Just taking it back to your career, your college work, how did you end up in the role? What led you towards that role in Lakeland?
Well, I should look at it, I suppose, from a family farm, like so many of the farms that we deal with all the time, always very keen and interested in the whole agriculture space. Maybe went to UCD and did an ag science degree, did a postgrad with Teagasc, did a PhD, so a fair bit of time studying. And joined Lakeland back in 1996, pretty much straight out of that, following postgrad. Joined as a trainee nutritionist, and have been lucky. The business has grown a lot over the period, so there were good opportunities, and I've been lucky sort of over the last 25 years evolve with the business into a fairly senior management role. And those opportunities are there, and they're afforded to people who join the business, whether that's through an appointment or through a graduate program. We run a graduate program there for the last 10 years, and that's been very successful. It's on hold just for the last 12 months with COVID and so on. But yeah, look, there are opportunities through all sorts of sectors. I was from the ag science side. We have food science opportunities. We have engineering opportunities. We have finance opportunities, IT opportunities. So, all of the disciplines are there. And there are opportunities across a number of sites and international and all that sort of stuff at the minute. So, yeah. But look, wanted to stay so close to the agri space and was lucky enough to get a job close to home, I suppose, when I was finished studying, and been there since.
Yeah, very good. I suppose talking, Pamela, about we're hearing from Pat there, the range of jobs that are available or that are currently even filled in Lakeland. Kingspan being a global company, but with such a huge presence in the Kingscourt area, even going into Monaghan. What are the range of roles that Kingspan fill?
I suppose quite similar to Pat. It's a manufacturing industry or company at the base of it all. There's lots of roles in terms of engineering, product development, automation, business, of course, business management, sales, marketing, IT. All of the main core parts of the business that are needed. There are opportunities and also graduate program offers available in Kingspan. There's huge opportunity for anyone who's willing to drive their own career forward. There is opportunity within Kingspan, not just maybe through a graduate program, but maybe with the opportunity of doing something coming from a job availability application form.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to have such a global leader and an innovative company on our own doorstep here that can create those different opportunities, regardless of what level you want to go into in college. But it's like Kingspan is definitely a leader when it comes to trying to achieve a sustainable building product and model.
Yeah, absolutely. They're very, very focused. And I suppose they've put themselves into a position where they're so driven to achieving this net zero emissions future that everyone's watching how they're going to do it. So they have to really walk the walk now, and not just, there's so many different pieces put in place. They know their latest campaign on the Planet Passionate, and there's so much investment into this and Planet Future that really Kingspan have put their money where their mouth is, I suppose, in terms of it. Yeah,
well, it's great to see a Cavan company leading the field like that. Kieran, just to ask you, obviously you do a lot of interviews when new staff are coming in, but what do you look for when you're interviewing a person for a job at Kbg?
I suppose, Damien, there's a number of things, and it depends on the role that you're interviewing for. But I suppose, really, in the last couple of years, we've concentrated on our apprenticeship scheme and our trainees to try and get staff in at a younger age and train them up. What do you look for? I suppose, personally, I would always look for somebody with a bit of spark to them. We have lots of people comes in for interviews here, and indeed over the years we've taken on staff with huge academic results, fantastic leaving certs, top grades. But sometimes those people just don't really cut the mustard when it comes to actually our line of work. Because our line of work, you're dealing with clients, and the one thing that clients expect, you have to be personable with them. You have to have empathy for the role, and the client has to be able to relate to you and know that you're going to go that extra step for them, be it in preparing the accounts, be it in dealing with the revenue, be it dealing with financial institutions. So I'd always look for somebody, Damien, with that bit of spark, that bit of go to them, that bit of personality to them. Yes, they have to have, for the role that they're going, they have to have the relevant maybe points or qualifications, but you do look for somebody that has that personality to them, that will be able to work in a busy dynamic, that is able to is a team worker, and is someone that's able to relate to their fellow workers and relate to their clients.
I suppose does that then automatically click into a GAA player who's come up and part of the team environment, has been shown discipline towards their physical development, looking after their teammates as well? It kind of almost seems like it just fits hand in hand.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, Damien, it does. Yeah, I suppose when anybody that's involved in GAA or any team sport, they automatically they're growing up with teamwork, a good work ethic, commitment, that motivation to do it, and a lot of that is transferred then into the work environment. So yeah, it does go hand in hand. And then we have as I said, we have current senior county players, we have past senior county players, and more than what I alluded to in my own career, Damien, it opens up opportunities for them with bringing in business into Kbg as well. So it's all part of the package. So definitely anybody that has a GAA background, be it like it doesn't have to be at the elite level. It doesn't have to be that they play senior county football for Cavan or any of the surrounding counties. Club players, somebody that's involved in GAA has a huge network of contacts. And, I'm currently chairman of Gowna GAA for the last, this is my 4th year, but I'd always say to even people that's involved at a junior level, stay involved at junior level, because a fella that's coming on in a junior match could be the club chairman in 5 years, 10 years time, and you don't want to lose anybody in GAA. And those people all are building up their network of people, and there's a role for everybody in organisations, be it Kbg, be it Lakeland, be it Kingspan with Pamela there. Those people have a network of contacts, and it's a matter of not being afraid to use those contacts. And when you have contacts there, it's great, but utilise them. Use them for the right benefit. Use them to develop yourself and enhance your own skills. So definitely GAA people have that network, have those values in their system that is beneficial for any employer.
Without a doubt. And just obviously you're living in Dublin, working in Santry. You studied in Trinity College, and all those years you were playing for either Cavan and Cavan Gaels. But was it difficult juggling the journey up and down the road to play football while living in Dublin?
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons. Sometimes you miss that car journey, either whether it's to catch up with people or make a few phone calls or whatever else. From a football point of view, it probably, as you get a little bit older, the demands are a little bit greater. So professionally, your working hours expire. So 4 hours, 2 or 3 times a week in the car is eating into work time or family time or other times. And recovery time is probably the biggest one, in that the demands at elite sport and elite GAA are just getting higher and higher. And when I look at the athletes that I look after that are nominally professional versus elite GAA athletes, the only difference is recovery time. The training loads and the training volumes are as high, if not higher, in elite GAA than they are in other sports. And the main difference is the recovery time in between. And so if that recovery time, you'll see it in other counties, like guys, it's well documented, we're talking about from Mayo or Donegal, maybe, a third of the squad living and working in Dublin and up and down things. So, that definitely has a massive impact in your competitive advantage. And that impact probably gets magnified post-college and as you get into your working career, because you have other demands coming in. You're not necessarily lying in bed at 11 o'clock missing lectures to use your recovery time. So I think both of those things can have, you balance it up against work opportunities, but it definitely makes the sporting element of it that little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I suppose, Pat, then you played a lot of football while working for Lakeland. Was it a good opportunity for you? Was it an advantage in your playing career to be located locally?
I think it was, I suppose when I was in college, I did a bit of travelling that you've just referred to, and that was, and look, things were a little less intense that time than they are now as well. The ask was probably less. But yeah, look, it was good. You were close to home. You didn't have all that travelling, and, work were facilitatory as well. So yeah, look, it made it easier, certainly, that the travelling was less. But we had a group of guys that were travelling that time too. It's easier when you have less travelling to do.
Yeah, looking, Pamela, back to Kingspan, there's obviously been a number of people have gone through the graduate program that Kingspan offer, but can you tell us a wee bit about the graduate program?
It's an opportunity for anybody, particularly coming from the sporting background, will understand that wants to drive and their own career. There's a world opportunity there, with sites all over the world, 100 facilities, 70 countries. We have a vast number of different disciplines that people can learn their trade in. And it's very competitively paid. It is an attractive package. I suppose we talk about the travel and the commitment of being close to home and etc. I myself did a graduate program and not necessarily a Kingspan, and yes, the demands of travelling are there, but it works hand in hand. Like the GAA also can work in appreciation of people's careers and offer them that bit of flexibility. Like I've been known, I look after sites in Limerick and Belfast, and to tug out in the M50 is not uncommon to me on the way home. But, there are opportunities there for people in the local area. Yes, you're not going to be sitting based in Kingscourt and Cavan by any means, absolutely not. But it is a Cavan company giving you this foot up onto a world scale with huge opportunities for the future. There's a lot of people came through that door and are still with the company.
And being a GA player for so long, what advantage or what traits did you bring from your sporting career that helped you in terms of your professional life?
Well, exactly as Kieran would have discussed, it's a very common language. Like I've travelled everywhere, all over the world, and the minute someone makes a comment, that's all there, plays a bit of the football, or plays a bit of the hurling, they like to call it. They wouldn't refer to the Kbg outside of Ireland because no one would understand it, but it instantly causes a conversation of, really, do you? And where do you play? And it probably puts me on a pedestal I don't deserve, but it definitely does open people's conversation. It puts them in a relaxed state that we can all have something on common ground. Sport in any capacity can be discussed. No matter if it's two different sports, you can get a commonality of how you all approach it and apply yourself. But definitely, as you all know, the construction industry is a very male-dominated industry, so it really does help to be able to talk the language of the GAA. Maybe too many assume I don't know enough, or haven't maybe a couple more Ulster medals than a few of the lads on here. But yes, no, I really, really enjoy the banter. They're extremely supportive. I've had such success at county and club level since joining Kingspan, and they've been right behind it from the start. Absolutely getting involved, putting their hand in their pocket, supporting any cause that I've come begging for. But no, in fairness, it's been good for me and good for my career. It really has helped ease me into a lot of difficult situations.
I suppose, Enda, you're dealing with athletes all the time. Has it helped you, the fact that they know that you've been an athlete at an elite level, at county level?
I think, as Kieran alluded to, it definitely helps, because you have an empathy or an understanding, or at least they think you do, in terms of having been there, gone through those experiences, and as an icebreaker, as they say very often, you see on the referral, ask you to see Enda King, plays with Cavan gave whatever, and immediately, it unlocks the conversation, and it puts you, as Pamela says, maybe on a pedestal I don't deserve sometimes, but it immediately gives a standing and a support from a credibility point of view or a character point of view, and then it's up to yourself then to allow your professional skills to maximise that opportunity, so I think it only helps, and especially when you're trying to explain, as I was saying earlier on, diagnosing injury is not necessarily the most difficult bit. Trying to identify why it's occurring and putting strategies in place to overcome that is most important. And so being able to read that into the understanding of what the demands are at club level or county level, or having trained and have had trainers who are completely well organised, and then having training loads that are completely chaotic and great for business but not great for your athletic sustainability. Being able to even just last week, we had a couple of young lads up, under 20 players, and they're running every day, they're doing weights every day, they're trying to have they're trying to lose weight at the same time, and it's a recipe for blowing up. And even though it's
Cavan players now, are they?
They would come from every county, but in some things it's trying to harness that enthusiasm and to try, and so when you can say, even if it is 15 or 20 years ago, if you can relate to what they're trying to say and the demands and their keenness to progress themselves, and then offer a bit of structure about how they can do that best without necessarily killing themselves in the process. Having that background, as Pamela says, being able to talk the talk, definitely allows your message to be translated much easier.
Yeah. I suppose we're just coming to the end of it now. But Kieran, going back to your role as a parent, I suppose, and an underage player and an employer, what advice would you give to players and their parents watching this broadcast?
Damien, the advice is, if you're going to do something, you do it. You do it to the best of your ability, and that is whatever that is. So some people's ability and skill levels are significantly higher than others. So if you're going to do a sport, absolutely give it 100%, but you have to enjoy it too, because look, and you'd question the level, and it's very interesting this the end of there, and the amount of injuries and significant injuries. And I know injuries can be just unfortunate, but you have to question where a lot of the elite sport is going and the time that's put into it, and is that conducive to a proper balance between sport, between work, between family life, between everything? Who knows, right? It's not for me to say, but I would say to any of them, and be it staff in here, and for example, we run apprenticeship program in here. That's we're a member of the apprenticeship program. It's run by Cavan, Monaghan, ETB, so it's in connection with the Accountant Technicians of Ireland. So, say for example, Jack Trainer, who's on the county under 20 panel. Now, Jack, when I mentioned this to Jack during the week, Jack wanted to come on himself, Damien, and talk about this. But using Jack as an example, he would have came straight in here from doing his leaving cert in St. Pat's, and he's doing a 2-year program, so which involves that he's 1 day a week in Monaghan College, and he's 4 days a week with us during the academic year. It's public knowledge that the accountant technician salaries is €20,000 starting off, and they obviously get their study leave and exams paid for and so forth. So it's a fantastic program for young people if they're interested in going down the accountancy route, because it allows them live at home, stay local, and they're working and learning and earning money at the same time. So it's a fantastic program, and it's public knowledge is there on the accountant technician's website. And
that's straight out of secondary school. You can go into that apprentice program.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, using there's Jack and Maureen is the two that's in the program at the moment. So they would have left St. Pat's and Loretta respectively, and joined us right away. So it is a huge opportunity for people, and especially with the way with COVID and the way things have changed, and people can be working local, and for lads that's involved with football, it keeps them local, that they're not traveling from wherever. So to answer your question, Damien, my advice to people is absolutely, be it work, be it sport, give it, if you're doing it, give it 100%, absolutely. But 100% is the best you can do. And if that brings you whatever way up the ladder, be happy with that. That's all you can do.
Yeah, that's good advice, Kieran. I'm very surprised. Pat, to finish off, use obviously you mentioned the graduate program, and later on we'll be expanding or the pathway will be giving out more details of the graduate program. But you also take on a lot of summer employment in Lakeland in the local area.
Yeah, we generally every year, Damien, we would have quite a number of students we would take into the business, I suppose, to cover maybe seasonal work and to cover holidays and that. So yeah, we have opportunities, and all of those are there on the website. There are opportunities for any students to go on the website and apply for those. We're generally fairly oversubscribed, but look, we work our way through that, and we would probably have 40 or 50 students in the business most years for some part of the summer. We didn't last year because of COVID. Obviously, we're trying to keep numbers down around the sites. Not sure where we'll be this year. It's not great looking as of yet, but we'll see how we go.
Thank you very much to Pat Shields from Lakeland Dairies, Pamela McCabe from Kingspan, Andy King, who's working up in Sanctuary Sports Clinic, and Kieran Brady from Kbg Accountants. So that wraps up this week's programme. My thanks to the Cavan Player Pathway Committee, chaired by Catherine Fox, who produced this programme. Folks, have a great week, and we'll have another show for you next week.